Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on the Movies. Today we are doing a two-part mini-series, a movie feature. It's called My Name, I Know My First Name is Steven, and it is based on a real-life kidnapping of a boy who was 7 in California, Merced, and by a pedophile man.
How do you know he was a pedophile?
Well, he was because he'd done he'd had other experiences and had already been in trouble.
Safi, you're not supposed to answer that question. You're supposed to ignore it and say, I'm not gonna put up with that.
Anyway, this is a real case, a real event that happened, and it's very sad.
And this is another movie in Alice and Mac April. I originally wanted to watch this movie last year. I found it, and I thought, ooh, this seems like it'd be a good movie to watch. But I couldn't find it on YouTube, which was surprising. And I couldn't find it on Tubi or Amazon either. The only way that I could find it was this random site. I don't know even what it's called. I'm gonna look it up because it's really weird. I don't even know why it's on there. It's called Toki Video. You know, Toki is in Tokyo.
Well, that's what I was wondering.
And then also it's on Facebook. So those are the only two places. Yeah, those are the only two places you can see it. Yeah. And I just put off watching it, because it is a long movie. And I was surprised to find out that Allison Mack was in it. And so I thought, oh, that's great. This is the perfect time to finally watch it. And, but the funny thing is, though, is that I don't even know where Allison Mack was in the movie. She played a character called Nettie. And I don't know where Nettie was the whole movie. I never found her at all. She must have been some really small character and must have only been there for 2 seconds because she wasn't either of his sisters.
Okay.
She wasn't the girlfriend. The girlfriend that he has later in the movie is actually the sister from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. So that's another thing that I thought was funny was that both those actresses were in this movie, that were in that series. I just thought that was a really funny coincidence, and yeah.
Well, I thought it was, and I'm thinking, that's not Allison Mack, that's the girl from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And I was surprised to see her. She did pretty well.
Yeah.
She played a girl in high school, and it looked like she may have been older, a little bit, maybe, in this movie. This movie was actually, or this two-part series was actually nominated for a Golden Globe and had several Emmy nominations. So I guess it was very well received. Well, that's a good thing, but unfortunately it was based on a true story. And what's really weird is a little boy who was kidnapped, his older brother was a Yosemite Park serial killer and killed 4 girls.
Yeah.
He is on death row.
It is, there might have been a second person as well, but what's really funny, though, is that that's one of the weirdest things about this movie is that it sort of doubles is the story about this kid who's been kidnapped by this really creepy pedophile bad guy, and the story of the origin of a serial killer. So it's really funny that you have those two stories that go side by side because it's the parents when we get into it we'll talk about it, but the parents, they have a lot of trouble in the movie with parenting and what to do with their children because they treat Steve differently when he gets rescued and gets back home compared to how they treat the other brother, and they act like the other brother is this model citizen, and it's oh shit, and he grows up to be a serial killer too. He grows up fucked up, and so like I don't know, like they're I don't know.
And you don't see any evidence of that in this show.
You kind of do actually. There's a couple of points where, like early on in the movie, the other brother was gonna paint over Steven's name, which he wrote on the garage, and the dad yells at him, and he gets really upset. And there's just little moments like that where you could put like I don't know, like creepy horror music in there, and then you could attach that to like a movie that's all about the Yosemite Park killer. Like that, you could literally do that, and it would work perfectly as like, oh shit, these are the origin moments of this crazy killer.
Well, it's just weird. I don't know how that connects, but because his brother was kidnapped, I just don't know how that translates into him turning into a serial killer.
I don't know.
I don't understand that, because I remember this happening, and I didn't even know about this brother.
I didn't.
This stuff. This was just, I just happened to see it when I was looking up the movie, and I'm like, what? I never heard about it. And I think this guy, Stevie, he might have been on a talk show. I might have seen it like a million years ago, because this boy he got killed in I thought it was a motorcycle wreck, and it says in the Wikipedia or whatever, the information, that it was a car wreck. It doesn't matter. He died. He was killed. And I don't know. It's just bizarre. Just the whole thing. And his parents, I mean, that would really be an adjustment. You think about the kid. He was like 7. And then when they got him back, I think it was 7 years later.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a completely different person. And then he had all those terrible molestation experiences. And just the fact that the man, he like brainwashed him. He would say, your parents don't care about you, which I've kind of heard these arguments with kidnappers. Your father had a heart attack, your mother moved away, your kids are spread out all over. I mean, he just fed him all this bullshit all the time. And so he comes back, and he's just not the same person. They can't treat him. He was smoking.
Well, they were treating him like a child as
they
well.
like he was still 7.
And
because that's how they remembered him.
So that's one thing to say, is that this movie, half of it is one movie, and it's all about him being kidnapped and living with the creep, and then the second half is all about when he's back home and him adjusting to his new life. Well, he doesn't adjust at all.
No.
And everything gets pretty bad by the end. And there's not even really a happy ending either. I mean, because they couldn't have a happy ending. I mean, it doesn't really end in a happy way. It's just kind of like... In fact, I would say that's my biggest critique of the movie, is that the ending... I don't know what they could have done, but the ending is just so, like... it's kind of forced, because the mom comes over to visit with him, and they have, like, a little talk, and then she cries, and they hug or whatever, but, like, it's just a really forced moment that doesn't feel like this is a happy ending at all, because it's not. So, you know.
And the strange thing is, I've never heard this before either. When he goes back to school, when he's older now, and he enrolls in school, he's bullied or teased because they find out he was molested. They need to use that in the case to convict the guy of. Well, we haven't gone through the rest of it, but they need that evidence to convict him of this crime against this boy. And so it's found out, it's publicized. I don't think they handled that right either. I would think that would have been private. They wouldn't have been, nowadays, that wouldn't be broadcast like that. If they have to go to testify in trial, it would be behind closed doors with the judge or something. I don't know. and people we teased him, made fun of him. They said he was gay because he'd been molested.
I thought that was really strange because, like,
never heard of that.
I get people making fun of each other for being gay, or if you just say someone's acting gay, like, you know, a lot of times Safi acts really gay.
Oh, God.
And, but, like, to call someone gay because they were molested is, like, really bizarre.
It is bizarre.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense at all.
And
so
didn't seem to be supportive.
Yeah,
either.
the school didn't care. Nobody cared, basically, about him the entire movie except for his girlfriend, honestly. You know, everyone in the movie sort of treated him like trash. You know, like it was really weird.
Like he was just a disposable kid.
And the police especially, they were terrible too. And we'll talk about that when we talk about the first half. But, like, I would say that, like, it does feel like two movies. It does feel like you could probably watch one half one day and then next week watch the other half and have a better experience. Because I don't think it works as well when you watch it all at the same time.
I don't know. That could be true. Because they work two completely different movies. But they were really good. I thought it was really good.
They were pretty good. The first half, you see his background and you see his parents. They have some sort of like a spanking fetish or something because, and that's child abuse, and that's all they fucking talked about was like spanking him.
Well,
like,
I think, well, according and I just wrote down a few of these quotes, and like one of the last things his father says to him, "Don't make me sorry that I didn't whip you tonight."
Yeah.
That's one of the last things his father says to him.
Yeah, that's like something an abuser would say to his victim. So, like, really, really weird. And I don't know, it's just, you know, it's like, this is a prime place, this is a prime family for a child to be targeted because their parents are so weird.
And his mother said, too, because his father didn't want to, and his mother said, "I think you should let him feel a belt on his back."
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God.
Ew.
Ugh.
And so, yeah, you know that someone like that is a prime target for these bad guys because these are the type of kids that they target are kids who have these kind of terrible families.
Yeah,
and
so they could just manipulate him just because of that general knowledge.
Yeah, and they were talking about how they couldn't afford all that they had. They had too many children, and
they had to move from to a smaller house.
So that was another thing that he could take advantage of. And at first, when you see these two guys, the bad guys, at first it doesn't really seem like he's a pedophile. It just seems like he's a crazy person who wants a child, like a son, and so he buys like every toy in the whole store. It's just really, really creepy.
And he tells his friend, "I'm going to get me a kid for Christmas."
Yeah, and by the way, this actor who's playing the bad guy, Kenneth Parnell, he is actually the private cowboy from Full Metal Jacket. And I was really surprised by that. I didn't recognize him. But, you know, he wears these same type of glasses, I guess, that he wore in that movie. So that was kind of fun to look up and discover. And he did a really good job. All the actors were really, really good. Who would be your favorite actor in the movie, Safi? The pedophile?
I thought Steven was good when he was a teenager.
Really?
I thought he did pretty well.
Yeah.
And when he was a little kid, too.
Yeah.
He was very cute. But what's so funny is, you know, I remember all through school, for both the kids, they always had this thing about stranger danger, and you don't get in a car with someone you don't know, and the cops asked them. They said, "Well, did you tell him never to go with the stranger that that he didn't know?" does he know how to use the telephone? And he really didn't. Does he know your number? I mean, he didn't know anything.
Yeah.
He said, we don't allow our children to play on the phone.
Yeah.
And it's not playing on the phone when something happens and you need to call them. And fortunately, he knew the names of his parents. But, like he was on he got to sneak in a pay phone call.
I would say my favorite sequence was the sequence where he tried to use the phone.
It was unbelievable.
Because he was given $2 to use to get cigarettes and I guess anything else that he wanted. And he paid for the cigarettes and this little chew toy for the dog, but it was noticeable that there was more money there that he probably could have used to get something else or do something else. And so he tried to work the phone outside. People on the street wouldn't help him at all, which is typical. People don't care at all. And then he gets on the phone with the operator and she doesn't help at all. And so by the time he was, Kenneth was outside, and so he had to run back in the store and hide and everything. And
get the cigarettes.
So that was a really good suspenseful sequence. When I was talking about suspense yesterday with American Shitty Story, contrast that with this, and you can see a good scene of suspense.
Yeah, just like the simple thing is the phone.
But what I was surprised by was the fact that Kenneth didn't notice that he probably had more money, and what did he use it for?
Yeah.
Because I thought he was going to be like, oh, what about the rest of the money?
Well, I don't think he had enough money for the cigarettes, and I think the lady gave them to him and paid for the difference with her own money.
I don't know.
Because he said it's a Christmas present for my dad.
But they said that he had just enough, though, so that means that he had just enough.
I guess.
I think.
I don't know.
So, but yeah, they kidnap him, and they make up a whole story about how, your parents don't want you anymore, and they're giving you to me so that I can rape you all the time. And yeah. And there's also the parents. At first, the parents are treated terribly. They're all treated like they're the criminals.
Yeah.
Which is typical. And they all have to take lie detector tests, which if I were in the situation, I would refuse to take that, because number one, those are not admissible in court.
Right.
And number two, they don't prove anything at all, because you can just easily cheat on them. There's been so many times where, people who are guilty of something, they've had an inconclusive test, or they passed it, and it's like, yeah, that's a bunch of bullshit. So, but after that, they get a psychic, and it's really funny because the psychic actually leads them right where the kid is being held at this little, is it like a trailer park?
Yeah, I think so.
And they dismiss it because they're thinking, oh, the grandfather lives there, and they thought the grandfather might have had something to do with it, but
so he has to get a lie detector test too.
Yeah, but they wrote that off, and they just kind of dismissed it as whatever.
But that's funny, because they said that she had been really good.
Yeah.
In other cases that they had hired her for.
And I think that that's a place where you could criticize them, because if I were the police in that situation, I would have knocked on every single door and found out who was there and what they were doing there. And if they had done that, they would have found out that Kenneth guy was living there, and they would have looked at his record and said, oh, shit, in 1950 whatever, he raped another child. Uh-oh, that's the guy. They would have found out right then and there. So it's kind of unbelievable that the psychic led them right to the bad guy, and they still couldn't figure it out. And it would have been so simple. Just go to the trailer park and figure out who's there and take them down.
Well, they were suspicious of the parents because one of the kid's friends told the police that Stevie had told them that he had done something and his father was going to give him a whipping.
Yeah.
So they thought I thought that maybe they thought he ran away because he didn't want to get a whipping. But no, they thought he whipped him too hard and killed him.
Which is it's believable, especially
So.
in this type of society, that happens once in a while.
Yes, it does.
Because of this child abuse problem that isn't really dealt with, and so yeah, I mean, it's a very uncomfortable experience, and it gets even worse as he gets older because at some point he's still like a little kid. I think he's like 7 or 8 or 9, and Kenneth gets a girlfriend,
Oh God.
and she rapes him as well. And I was like, oh my God, like he found like a female pedophile too, and they're like a pedophile Joker and Harley Quinn on this bitch. Like, God, that's ugh.
That was strange.
Like, how did he even find her? Like, because like you think about the chance of finding a female pedophile. There are a lot of female predators out there. I mean, you just look at the public school system. There's practically every month there's a new teacher who's arrested for raping a student now. And you think about how did he even find her? Because like that would be that's really, really weird that he was able to find her, and then they were raping him, I guess, for months and months and months. So that's really creepy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Was that surprising, Safi?
I've never heard of anything like that either. It blows my mind.
Another thing that's mind-blowing is that, one of the controversial things about the case is that Kenneth hardly got punished at all. He only got like 5 years.
It was something about the way the law was structured.
Yeah, but, well, the woman, she didn't get anything. She didn't even get arrested for raping a child. And this happens very frequently when you have these cases where you have a couple and a woman was involved as well. The woman won't get punished because she's a woman. She'll get to plea out of it in exchange for pretending like she's the victim, and she'll be like, oh, he forced me to do everything. I'm just a poor innocent woman. Or, like, I guess in this situation, like, it just won't matter at all. Like, the police don't care because she's a woman.
Well, I never heard anything more about it.
Talk about rape culture. I mean, come on. She's raping children out there, and the police don't even care. Like, that is the definition of what these so-called feminists have called rape culture, and it's a woman. What's up with that?
I don't know.
That's pretty bad. I think that we need to start a men's rights movement to
Oh, God.
take the power back against people like this. People like Kenneth Parnell's girlfriend and what she did. Because she raped him too. And she didn't get anything. I mean, that's just ridiculous. I mean, they don't even talk about that in this movie. They don't even make that an issue. And I thought that was really weird too. Because it's like the filmmakers don't really care about it either. Because if I was a filmmaker, I would have made it an issue. That's for damn sure. Right?
I guess.
Why didn't they talk about it?
I wasn't thinking that she was some kind of child pedophile.
She did.
Rapist.
He talked about at the end with that one girl. He said, my first girl I had when I was age 9.
Oh, yeah.
That's what he
right.
meant.
Yeah, you're right.
And-
I forgot about that.
Yeah. What do you think of that?
Wow.
It's pretty bad.
Pretty terrible. So anyway, this kid, Stevie, so the years went by, and, this man told him that his father had a heart attack, and his mother moved away, and all the kids were spread out all over, and which is, I don't know, I think that would have sounded weird to him, and I think it did. And then the guy decides, well, it's not enough to have, this kid's older now, and he wanted
So he's less attractive
he
to
wanted a
him.
little kid,
Yeah.
like Stevie used to be.
Yeah.
So he well, they didn't mention, this wasn't mentioned in the movie, but apparently they tried several times to kidnap kids.
Yeah, and he would purposefully sabotage it
Yeah.
several times, and he just kept on persisting with it, and finally,
They grabbed a little boy.
yeah. He was also molesting Steve's friends, and that's
another thing.
That was probably another thing that I kind of thought was overlooked, was like, that was really dark, too.
Yeah, and I don't know why was he afraid? He didn't want them to tell anybody.
Yeah.
And I don't know, because he was afraid that, I don't know, that they would tell about him.
I guess.
But I didn't understand that part. But
I'm not sure.
So anyway, when he gets to this teenage age, and he's been around for a while, he's well beyond age 7. They've done all this. They tried to kidnap all these other kids, but they don't show that in the movie. That was a write-up. He finally helps them kidnap a little boy, and the things that he says about the boy are the same things he said when he kidnapped Stephen, and Stephen remembers. And so he realizes that everything he said about his family and all that's probably not true. But he doesn't completely know it, but you can just tell all of this stuff he's been fed, this BS, is kind of going out the window. So then he doesn't want this little boy he doesn't want him to get abused. He doesn't want him to go through what he went through. So he decides to help him get away.
And he tries to save him, and then he'll go back to Kenneth. But what happens is the police catch both of them, and so, they've got both of them. And from there, Kenneth is screwed. So, but he's not really screwed because the law protects him. So,
well, he only gets punished for kidnapping. Well, I can't say completely for Stevie, but the majority of the sentence that he's given is only for kidnapping this little kid. The rest of it for Stevie is like a couple of years, or maybe less. Maybe not even 2 years, because something about the law, and I there's no way I can explain it because I don't really understand it. It's been changed since then, but they can't put the two things together for some reason, which I don't get.
It makes no sense at all.
But they changed the law so that because they knew that was terrible.
So I really liked the first half. I thought it was very dark. But I will say that the movie they kind of cut a few corners here and there. Like, it wasn't as detailed as the McDonald family murder movie. Where they had that scene with the big reveal where the guy said this is probably how he killed his whole family.
That was really good.
It was just fully detailed, every single little detail you could ask for. And in this movie, they constantly cut around a corner and to try to not have to explain things. And I guess it's just because it's a television movie.
Yeah.
But I kind of felt like it cheapened it and it made it feel kind of phony, because it's like they weren't willing to confront things that happen in the movie. Like, as I said, they never talk about that woman again, and they never even show her again. She's in one scene, and he says that he can call her his mother now, and she's going to live with them for a few months, and then it's implied that they rape him together in the bed, and that's the last we see of her the rest of the movie. And there's just things like that I felt like could have been done better, instead of cutting away later on. They could have done more with the explanation, at least, because I thought maybe they're being so vague because in the second half they'll have the courtroom stuff and we'll be explained about everything that happened. But no, nothing is really explained very much. It's just all kind of vague, and it's not really explained, not very detailed. But the second half, what did you think of the second half, Safi?
I don't know. I didn't like it as much as the first half, but
Why?
I don't know. It just it was all really good, but it was it felt like it was a little hurried.
Yeah.
And
this should have been like a 3-part miniseries, probably.
Yeah. But on something like that, I don't think they would have done a 3-part. They usually, because I remember these miniseries, usually in something like that, it's like a 2-parter. And then when you got something like Stephen King and Rose Red or that Centennial miniseries, or there's all kind. The one about Australia, those were multiple parts miniseries, but something like this was only a 2-part. Would be only a 2-part. I don't know why. I guess because it's reality TV and all those other things are fictional. I don't know. I have no idea the justification for how they set these things up. But it's just based on my memory. So I'm trying to, couldn't even think of how many of these reality type series they produced. But like I said, it was well received, and it got several nominations. I don't think it won anything, but still, I think that's pretty good that they even got the nominations. So.
Yeah, I would say that the second half was carried by the performance of the teenager.
Yeah,
like
did a really good job.
If the actor didn't do a good job in the second half, it would not be very good, because it sort of feels like it's tacked on. And again, it doesn't feel like it's very thorough in how it feels like it keeps cutting around the corner, or beating around, or what would you call it, like beating around the bush or something, like of just, I don't know.
Cutting corners and going to one thing too fast.
Yeah, because it's disjointed in the second half. You don't even get to hear very much from Kenneth, the bad guy, in the second half.
No.
Like, he's basically a wallpaper character in the second half.
Well, they did have him on the stand.
And he lied.
And now this is what they're doing. This was for the little boy that they had just recently kidnapped. And he made it sound like Stephen did it, and he didn't know anything about it or something. The way he did it was just terrible.
It was pretty funny.
The little boy even shook it. You could see he shook his head no, that was a lie. So, but they don't show him interviewing him on the stand or anything. So, but he had to have done something, because they nailed him for that crime. They just didn't nail him very much for the other, which, my God, the kid lost his whole childhood to that man.
And then he kind of lost his whole teenager life as well, because as we said, when he got home, people called him a faggot because he was molested, and also he was still drinking and smoking because Kenneth taught him those habits.
Well, he was allowed to do it, and they say if you start smoking when you're, below 21 or something, that it's harder to quit. That's like a fact. And he had been allowed to smoke. He'd been allowed to drink. I mean, they'd be sitting in a restaurant, and he would be giving them a beer. Or he would be giving them beer, and it wasn't like he hid it or anything.
I thought that part was weird.
I didn't get that. That the people on the restaurant would allow him to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was weird to me, too.
That wouldn't happen in real life.
I don't know.
Or maybe, I guess it happened back then, or it happened in that specific instance, but like that restaurant would lose their license after they found out. So, I would say overall the movie was pretty good. It's sad that we don't know where Allison Mack is in the movie so that we can make fun of her some more. Uh, I guess, I mean, the thing that you could make fun of with her with this movie is just the fact that she's in this movie, and this movie's kind of a foreshadowing of her and everything, and so I guess that's the only thing you could say.
Yeah.
What would you rate the movie in terms of food, Safi?
Oh, God. I guess I'd just give it some, I think I'd just give it some barbecued wings. It was really good. It's not really, I don't know what else to give it. It's, you know, if you have just some wings and you put barbecue sauce on them and they're good, I mean, it's not enough to have that for a meal. So, because they were a little sparse on the second part, or they rushed around some corners, I just give it some barbecued wings, or wings with barbecue sauce on them, because I thought it was really good, but just
The first half.
The first half. It's just the second half was a little shorted or rushed or something, and you know, I feel so bad. This really happened, and the guy, he did marry the girl
And had children.
and 2 kids.
But then he died at age 24.
Yeah.
So he died a year before my age.
Yeah,
So,
sad.
it's pretty bad.
Sad. And I had heard about this because there was another case that happened in Missouri where a boy got kidnapped, and I remember, I don't know if he talked to this Stainer kid or it was just brought up because the same kind of thing happened, but he got rescued. But it was a few years where he had been kidnapped and he couldn't escape, and they were trying to the guy was trying to pick up another kid and having this kid help him. This was in Missouri. I don't remember any details, but it was a similar, so I think they brought this Stainer case up in conjunction with this one. So I remember, and that's where I was living in Missouri, so that's why I would have heard about the Missouri case. So how about you? What did you give it?
I would say it's like a handful of red vines along with a bowl of popcorn with extra butter. Now, I really like red vines, especially over Twizzlers. But I don't eat red vines all the time.
No.
So, like, I guess just having red vines once in a while, it can be a treat. You know, they're nice and fruity and everything, but they're kind of hard on your teeth as well. And so the first half is like a handful of red vines, and that, you know, wouldn't want to watch this type of story all the time. Very uncomfortable story to watch. Even more uncomfortable to joke about on a review. I guess it probably wouldn't be uncomfortable for Allison to joke about, though. Probably. And because I think with the guy that she was with in the cult, I think he had like some sort of a case where he like brainwashed this 12-year-old girl and she stayed with him, and it was basically like him kidnapping her and then she killed herself or something, but I can't remember, but it was a very similar type of thing. And so, but then the second half is like a little bowl of popcorn with extra butter. And I don't really like extra butter on popcorn. I just feel like I'd rather just have like the normal amount of butter and have salt on it, so that you're not just getting the butter flavor, you're getting the salt. Because the salt really helps the popcorn. I mean, if popcorn isn't salty, then it's just completely unedible to me. So that's what I would give the movie. It's like a snack. It's like an okay snack that it's not really something you want to have all the time.
So anyway, it's also good to note that, you know, back several years ago, this is an example of a miniseries that they don't do anymore.
Yeah.
And it was pretty well done. Or they wouldn't have been given all those nominations for all those awards. I know it didn't win, but it's still, I think that's pretty good. Because if you have one of these Lifetime movies today,
It wouldn't get anything.
no, it wouldn't get anything. It wouldn't get an award, much less a nomination for one. And it was entertaining, you know. And even whether it was like a real story like this, or it was Stephen King, or
It shows
Centennial,
it shows that back then when people would use TV movies or miniseries as an insult to something, that they were actually really, really good.
yeah.
And ever since people started criticizing them, like after that, they became really, really bad. So like it's just too bad that like they're not really given anything anymore, or I guess they're not crafted anymore the way they were back then, because they're all really, really good for the most part.
Yeah, and they put a lot of work in them. They're not, like, this one a little short, like we said in the second part, but still.
They put a lot more work into it than with
Yes.
Ghostbusters or
Or
Godzilla.
Or those Goosebumps.
Yeah,
things.
Goosebumps show.
Ugh, God, help me.
Or Fear Street.
Ugh. So, anyway, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and become one of our subscribers. And I guess Marco has found another Allison Mack movie for
Yeah,
us to review. I don't know what it is
a
yet.
couple more.
So, there'll be a couple of more. So, that's it, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye!